Teen thrillers, Hollywood epics, and a cannibal romance for the ages. Give these movies a chance on Amazon Prime, and you'll soon learn that you can't always trust a box office tally. Damien Chazelle's Babylon is a glorious swan dive into the decadence of Hollywood during the Roaring Twenties, a rocky period that ushered in the advent of the talkies and the end of an era for many silent film stars. This anarchic comedy depicts the rise and fall of Nellie Leroy, a notoriously wild, fictional silent movie star who struggles to maintain her popularity once talkies reveal her to be a flawed, crass human with an unusual accent. Babylon is massive in scope and budget, costing an estimated $80 million, with a cast led by A-list names such as Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, Tobey Maguire, and Olivia Wilde. The movie's biggest scenes must have cost a pretty penny as well, bringing together stellar set decorations, costumes, and hundreds of extras to depict Hollywood parties so lavish that they'd give Gatsby a run for his money. Babylon bombed at the box office for many reasons, resulting in the film only recouping a small percentage of its bloated production budget. Although the financial failures of Babylon, much like the film itself, serve as a metaphor for the volatility of the entertainment industry, the movie garnered 3 Oscar nods and favorable scores with audiences on Metacritic. Babylon remains an ambitious, messy, manic love letter to cinema and a snapshot of pre-Hays Code Hollywood. It's pretty much a must-see for all true film fanatics. Maybe it's not such a surprise that the cannibalistic love story at the heart of Bones and All didn't draw audiences to theaters in droves. This quirky indie film from director Luca Guadagnino follows Maren, a young cannibal living a transient life under an assumed name with her father. On her 18th birthday, Maren awakes to discover her father has abandoned her, leaving an envelope of cash, a tape, and her birth certificate. Embarking on a journey to find her mother, Maren discovers that there are other people like her when she meets Lee, a young cannibal running from his troubled family life. Guadagnino acknowledged Bones and All probably never would have been made if it wasn't for Timothée Chalamet's box office clout, suggesting Guadagnino knew it may have a limited target audience from the start. That's not to say the movie isn't great though. The cinematography is beautiful and beguiling despite the dark themes, while the acting is top-notch. You can't help but empathize with Lee and Maren, who show that connection is an innate human need despite their unnatural desires. Although the film didn't recoup its estimated production budget of $16 million in ticket sales, it garnered excellent scores from critics and audiences on Rotten Tomatoes and favorable scores on Metacritic. All in all, Bones and All is a tragic love story that might just have the naysayers eating their hearts out. Bombshell explores the real-life fall of Fox News titan Roger Ailes. Ailes was ousted from his role in the organization after an internal investigation was launched following a sexual harassment lawsuit by journalist Gretchen Carlson.
If Gretchen Carlson hadn't sued, would Roger Ailes still be the chairman of Fox News?
I think so.
The movie explores the toxic work environment at Fox News from the perspective of veteran anchor Megyn Kelly and a young, ambitious associate producer named Caleb Pospisil. The two women grapple with their responsibility to come forward with their experiences of sexual harassment in the wake of Carlson's allegations. Bombshell wasn't profitable despite its impressive cast and timely #MeToo storyline, suggesting the general public isn't exactly hungry for entertainment about media tycoons and their abuses of power, even when the film boasts an A-list cast. The incredible performances of the strong ensemble cast led to favorable reviews from audiences and critics, however, as well as a bevy of award nominations. Charlize Theron is nearly unrecognizable as Kelly. Nicole Kidman is commanding in her performance as the brilliantly strategic Coulson, and Margot Robbie's vulnerable performance as Pospisil pulls at the heartstrings. Although Bombshell takes some liberties with the true story, it nevertheless makes for a deft exploration of the polarization of America during the 2016 presidential campaign and the role Fox News played in the sensationalization of news as entertainment. Despite its financial failures, Bombshell remains a poignant portrait of US culture during a volatile period and is an excellent viewing choice for political junkies. Joe Wright's Cyrano is the latest film adaptation of this classic tragedy of unrequited love, albeit with an intriguing twist. This version of the 1897 play, Cyrano de Bergerac, is a musical written by Erica Schmidt, based on her own stage play, which, like the movie, also starred Peter Dinklage as Cyrano. In the source material, Cyrano is a man who suffers for his unusually large nose. In this adaptation, he has dwarfism. Cyrano's poor self-confidence and fear of rejection stop him from openly professing his love to a woman named Roxanne, instead helping the more conventionally attractive Christian win Roxanne's heart with a series of love letters. Despite getting an Oscar nod and being praised by critics and audiences on Rotten Tomatoes, Cyrano did abysmally at the box office, only pulling in a fraction of its estimated $30 million budget. Musicals and period films typically need big budgets, making them a financial gamble, and Cyrano is both. It likely didn't come as much of a shock to anyone when it failed to earn back its budget, but this iteration of Cyrano de Bergerac's love story is worth a watch regardless, especially if you're a fan of either genre. Setting the story in 18th century France is an interesting change of scenery for the story, which is usually set in the 17th, and Dinklage gives as strong as a performance as you'd expect from such an excellent actor. Don't let the box office numbers fool you. Cyrano is more than worth your time. Here's something you may not have known. In 2016, Richard Linklater made a sequel to his cult classic Dazed and Confused. Kind of, at least.
That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
Everybody Wants Some is the little-known spiritual sequel where, once again, Linklater created a nostalgic time capsule, this time taking us back to college life in the early 80s. The film follows freshman baseball star Jake through the eventful days he spends bonding with his rowdy teammates before the beginning of classes. Everybody Wants Some is a fair bit more raunchy than Linklater's iconic debut film, acting as an homage to saucy college comedies from the 80s. Much like its older sibling, however, this film boasts a killer soundtrack that is a perfect snapshot of a time when disco was dying off and hip-hop was about to take off. Sadly, Linklater struck out at the box office with this film, proving that making money isn't necessarily where his talent lies. This indie gem barely recouped half of its production budget, proving that everybody did not in fact want some of Everybody Wants Some. But critics and those few people who did see the movie seems to love it. In particular, the ensemble cast enjoyed some truly brilliant chemistry, with Glenn Powell unsurprisingly stealing pretty much every scene he graces. And yeah, maybe Everybody Wants Some didn't become a cultural touchstone like Dazed and Confused, but that doesn't mean this hilarious romp isn't worth a watch. If you haven't seen Freeway, a curious mid-90s retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, well, you're not alone. The twisted modern fairy tale follows Vanessa Lutz as she hitchhikes to her grandma's house in Bakersfield after her sex worker mom and drug addict stepdad are taken into police custody for solicitation and possession. When Vanessa's social worker is sent to retrieve her, Vanessa goes on the lam to avoid another stint in foster care. Along the way, Vanessa meets Bob Wolverton and opens up to him about her harrowing life experiences before discovering he is the I-5 killer, who is known for preying upon women along the concrete corridor north of Los Angeles. This modern fable provides thought-provoking social commentary on how our criminal justice system often protects rich white men while disenfranchising poor and educated girls like Vanessa, who have spent their childhood in the foster care and juvenile detention systems. Despite only pulling in a fraction of its shoestring budget, Freeway got the coveted 2 thumbs up rating from Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, and is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, not least in part due to the stellar performances turned in by Reese Witherspoon and Kiefer Sutherland. The 1988 comedy thriller Heathers follows Veronica Sawyer, a teenage genius who thinks she sold her soul for a seat at the popular table with the original Mean Girls, all of whom happen to be named Heather. When bad boy Jason Dean moves to town, Veronica's teen angst is directed toward her own friend group, and thanks to JD's influence, murders staged to suicide soon begin to sweep the high school.
Hi, I'm sorry. Technically, I did not kill Heather Chandler. But hey, who am I trying to kid, right?
Heathers might be one of the greatest teen movies ever made, and yet, according to director Michael Lehman, the movie is unlikely to be remade for a lot of reasons, not least the controversial topics Heathers explores with such dark humor and glee. Nevertheless, the movie's sharp dialogue, idiosyncratic slang, and excellent cast is a perfect recipe for a classic high school movie that has more than stood the test of time. Heathers was a dud at the box office and only brought in a third of its budget. In fact, it only lasted a few weeks before being pulled from theaters. But it has since become a certifiable cult classic, even going on to delight fans in a new incarnation as a musical. In the end, Heathers garnered a 95% fresh score with critics on Rotten Tomatoes and is sure to delight if you stream it on Amazon Prime. The Boondock Saints may have struck out with critics at the time of its release, but audiences love this vigilante justice film. When fraternal twin brothers Connor and Murphy grow weary of organized crime in the city, they hunt down Boston's infamous gangsters. The brothers soon become folk heroes in their community, and an eccentric FBI agent is set to put an end to their crusade.
What if it was just one guy with 6 guns? Why don't you let me do the thinking, huh, genius?
But frankly, the Boondock Saints did abysmally at the box office. Some believe the film struggled to find a distributor because writer-director Troy Duffy had beef with Harvey Weinstein, who may have blacklisted the project. More likely, the Columbine shooting happening mere weeks before the ultra-violent film's release resulted in a limited theatrical release and poor turnout in theaters. Blockbuster Video was instrumental in helping the Boondock Saints achieve cult status, however, when the rental chain negotiated an exclusive rental rights deal. During its second lease on life, the movie became so popular with audiences that it even received a belated sequel. There's even talk of a Boondock Saints threequel, which so far hasn't yet materialized. If you're looking for a gleefully violent 90s throwback, put on the Boondock Saints and kick up your Doc Martens. 91% of Rotten Tomatoes audience members think you will enjoy it. 3,000 Years of Longing follows an academic, Alethea, who has a strange encounter during a trip to Istanbul for a conference. After a blown glass bottle is given to Alethea as a gift, she encounters the Djinn, who requests she make 3 wishes to secure his permanent freedom from the bottle that was once his prison. Because she studies mythology and folklore, Alethea is wary of making these wishes, knowing the many ways in which wish fulfillment often backfires on the wisher. While trying to earn her trust, Djinn shares his life story with Alethea. Writer-director George Miller's 3,000 Years of Longing flamed out at the box office, recouping less than half of the $60 million budget. But that doesn't mean it isn't worth your time. The scenes depicting the Djinn's history are gorgeous, transporting viewers into an incredibly realized mythic past. And while much of the film is the Djinn and Alethea sitting in a hotel room, it is nevertheless an engaging exploration of folklore and is Miller's love letter to storytelling. 3,000 Years of Longing got solid scores with critics and audiences on Rotten Tomatoes too, making it a must-see for any mythology aficionado.